Most people think the end of the world starts with a bang. They imagine a cinematic masterpiece where they go out in a blaze of glory. They are wrong. It starts with a flicker on your TV screen, a dropped call, and a silence so heavy it feels like it has physical weight. You are sitting in your living room in a town like any other, maybe somewhere in the Midwest or the heart of the South. You assume the power grid is just acting up again. You think the cable went out because of a storm, but there is no wind outside. There is only the realization that the world you knew just expired. That first hour is a haze of denial. You look out the window and see the neighbours doing the same. We call this the looking phase. Everyone is standing on their porches, holding phones that are now just expensive glass bricks. Some are tapping screens like they can charm the signal back into existence. Then you see it. A strange, bruised, purple light on the horizon toward the nearest major city. It is not a sunset. It is the atmosphere burning. That is when the hair on your arm stands up. That is the moment you realize your SOP is about to change forever. The sound hits you 3 minutes later. Not a bang, but a low-frequency rumble that rattles the china in your cabinets and vibrates in your teeth. Down the street, a car horn starts blaring because the EMP fried the electronics and shorted the alarm. The first scream follows shortly after. It is not a scream of pain. It is the sound of pure, unadulterated panic from a mother who just realized she has no way to call her kids at school. This is the moment where 90% of people fail. They freeze. They wait for a siren or a broadcast that will never come. But you have to move. Your first instinct is to run to the store. Don't. If you are seeing the light and hearing the rumble, the stores are already death traps. Your mission is internal. You go to every bathtub in the house and you start the water. You fill the sinks. You fill every pot and pan. Why? Because the municipal pumps are on the grid, and once the pressure in the lines drops, that is it. You aren't doing this for you. You are doing this because in 3 days your daughter will be crying for a glass of water, and you will not let her go thirsty. In these first 4 hours, the radiation hasn't settled yet. The fallout plume is still travelling downrange. You have a window, but it is closing. You need to seal the house. Not with fancy gear, but with whatever you have. Heavy plastic, duct tape, and mattresses pushed against the windows. You aren't trying to stop a bullet. You are trying to stop dust. Tiny, invisible particles of ash that carry the kiss of death. Every breath you take of unfiltered air is a gamble with your DNA. You do not gamble with your family's lives. Hope is not a strategy. Right now, you are listening to this and wondering if your pantry has enough to last. Most people guess they have enough food, but the math says otherwise. They count calories based on a sedentary life, not a survival reality. Go to protocolsurvival.com right now. Calculate your survival score and enroll in our free Catastrophe Survival 101 course. Do not wait for the signal to drop. Get the training before you need it. Secure your family's future while you still have the luxury of a working internet connection. That is your primary mission today. By hour 4, the town has gone quiet. The initial shouting has died down into a murmuring dread. You look out through a crack in the plastic over your window. You see Mr. Henderson across the street trying to start his truck. He is turning the key over and over, his face red with frustration. He doesn't understand that the engine control module is fried. He is stuck, and he is a mile away from his wife's office. This is where the social contract begins to fray. People are realizing that the cavalry isn't coming. They are alone in the dark. The sky starts to change colour again. It is not purple anymore. It is a sickly, bruised grey. The first flakes begin to fall. If you didn't know better, you would think it was an early snow. But it is warm. It is the pulverized remains of a city 50 miles away, carried by the upper-level winds. This is the fallout. Every flake that touches your skin is a tiny radiator poisoning you. You retreat into your interior room, the one with the most mass between you and the outside. This is your world now. 4 walls and the sound of your own breathing. You gather your family in the designated safe zone. This is where the mental breakdown usually happens. Your teenage son is staring at his dead phone, his face pale. Your wife is checking the pantry for the 3rd time. You need to give them tasks. A busy mind doesn't have time to fracture. Assign someone to monitor the hand crank radio. Assign someone to manage the waste bucket. Yes, the waste bucket, because the toilets are no longer an option. You are now the commander of a very small, very scared unit. Lead them. You might think the National Guard will roll down the street in an hour with water and blankets. That is a comforting thought. It is also a lie. In a full-scale escalation, the Guard is prioritized for the silos, the command centers, and the continuity of government. A mid-sized town in the suburbs is low on the list. They are dealing with 1,000 fires and 0 comms. If you are waiting for a green truck to save you, you are already dead. You have to be the Guard. You have to be the government. You have to be the survivor. Night falls on day 1. It is a darkness you have never experienced. No streetlights, no glow from the town centre, just an oppressive velvet black. You sit in the centre of your house, listening to the wind hit the plastic on the windows. You hear a distant explosion, maybe a gas line, maybe something worse. You realise that the world has reset to the year 1850, but without the skills or the infrastructure to handle it. You hold your flashlight tight. You conserve the batteries. The long grind has begun. Day 2 through 5 are a blur of boredom and mounting anxiety. This is what the movies skip. They skip the part where you spend 10 hours staring at a basement wall, trying to remember if you felt a headache because of the stress or because the radiation shielding is failing. You start to smell things you never noticed before. The dampness of the concrete. The smell of unwashed bodies. You are living in a tomb of your own making, hoping it doesn't become a literal one. This is the grind. This is where the will to live is tested. By day 4, the hunger isn't a sharp pain anymore. It is a dull, constant throb in the back of your head. You have to be the calorie warden. Your kids will want to eat because they are bored, not because they are starving. You have to say no. You have to explain that the 3 cases of canned beans in the basement have to last 30 days, maybe 60. You see the resentment in their eyes. It hurts more than the hunger. But you are protecting them from a future where there is absolutely nothing left. You are the villain, so they can stay alive. Sanitation will kill more people than the blast ever did. By day 6, the waste bucket in the corner is a biohazard. If you dump it out the window, you risk exposure to fallout. If you keep it inside, you risk cholera or dysentery. This is the reality of the grid-down life. You need a system. Double bagging, lime if you have it, and a sealed area away from the living quarters. You don't want your last memory of your family to be watching them wither away from a preventable infection. Scrub your hands with what little water you can spare. You spend hours cranking that radio. Most of the time, it's just static. The rhythmic shh of a dead atmosphere. But sometimes, in the middle of the night, you catch a sliver of a signal. A voice from a ham operator 3 states away, repeating coordinates and casualty counts. It makes the world feel massive and empty. You realize that your little town is an island in a sea of chaos. There is no central authority giving orders. There is no FEMA trailer coming around the corner. It is just you and the static. And the static doesn't care if you live or die. Around day 7, the first knocks come. Not loud, aggressive pounding, but a soft, hesitant rap on the door. It's the neighbour from 3 houses down. He looks 10 years older. He's asking for medicine. His daughter has a fever. You have a bottle of ibuprofen, but you know that once you give some away, word will spread. This is the hardest part of governance, deciding who gets to survive. If you help everyone, you all die. If you help no one, you lose your soul. You give him 4 tablets, no more. Day 10 arrives. This is the tipping point. The radiation levels outside have dropped enough that short-term excursions are possible, but the social order has reached a breaking point. The informal groups that formed in the shelters are now becoming structured. In your town, the high school gym has become the de facto seat of government. Not because anyone voted, but because the people there have the only working generator and a stockpile of emergency rations. Governance isn't about flags anymore. It is about who controls the calories and the clean water. Authority is born from necessity. You attend the first town meeting at the gym. It is grim. The mayor is gone, nobody knows where. A local vet and a former police sergeant are running the show. They aren't talking about taxes or zoning. They are talking about work assignments. Security, water procurement, medical care, and scavenging. If you don't work, you don't eat. It sounds harsh, but it is the only way to prevent a total collapse into violence. The community has to crystallize now, or it will fragment. And fragmentation in a nuclear winter is a death sentence for everyone. You sign up for security. You have the eyes for it. Information is the most valuable currency on day 10. The ham radio operators in town have set up nets, scheduled times to broadcast and receive info from neighbouring counties. You learn that the radiation is clearing to the south, but the bridges are out. You hear rumours of federal aid in the capital, but it's 500 miles away. This flow of data prevents the rumours from turning into riots. A community that knows what is happening is a community that can plan. A community in the dark is a community that hunts its own. Security is the dominant concern now. The grocery stores were picked clean days ago. Now people are looking at the warehouses on the edge of town. Groups of men from the next town over have been spotted scouting your perimeter. They aren't bad people, just desperate fathers. But desperation is a force multiplier for violence. You establish checkpoints. You control access to the supply caches. You aren't playing soldier, you are creating a buffer. Because if that warehouse goes, the town starves by day 20. You stand your watch with a heavy heart and a loaded rifle. Water procurement is the most dangerous job. The local reservoir is exposed, so you have to find groundwater or use industrial-grade filtration. You organise a detail to haul water from the deep wells at the old brewery. It is back-breaking work. You see the people in the line, their faces gaunt, their clothes stained with the dust of the new world. This is where the governance proves its worth. The distribution is metered. 2 gallons per household. It's not enough to be comfortable, but it's enough to keep the kidneys functioning. This is the math of survival. The medical clinic is a nightmare. There are no antibiotics left. Every scratch is a potential death sentence. You watch a man plead with the doctor to help his son's infected leg. The doctor, a woman who hasn't slept in 3 days, has to tell him there's nothing she can do. This is why you prepped. This is why you have a trauma kit and a stockpile of fish mocks. You see that man's face and you feel the crushing weight of your own secret stash. You want to help, but you know that if you reveal what you have, your own family's safety net vanishes. This is the guilt that eats you alive. Tensions boil over on day 12. A man is caught stealing an extra ration of canned peaches. The crowd wants to beat him. The town council has to step in. This is the moment where civilization either holds or vanishes. They decide on a punishment. He loses his rations for 2 days and has to work double shifts on the waste detail. It is fair, it is firm, and it prevents a lynching. You realise that rules are not for the easy times. They are for the times when everyone wants to be a monster. You hold the line. The council organises scavenging parties to hit the hardware stores. They aren't looking for gold or electronics. They are looking for seeds, hand tools, and wood stoves. The transition from surviving to subsisting begins here. You realise the local Walmart isn't a store anymore, it's a mine. You have to go in teams, armed and alert. The interior of the store is a tomb, filled with the smell of rotted produce and the echoes of the first day looters. You grab every packet of heirloom seeds you can find. Those seeds are the only bridge to next year. By day 14, the shock has worn off and the depression has set in. People are stopping. They are sitting in their dark houses, staring at nothing. The reality that the world isn't going back to normal is finally sinking in. The high school gym is less crowded because people are losing the will to walk there. This is a danger as great as any fallout. A community that gives up on its future will stop maintaining its defences. You go door to door in your sector. You check on the elderly. You force people to move. Survival is a momentum game. A family decides to leave. They have a car that somehow still runs, a 1980s diesel Mercedes. They think they can head north to a relative's farm. The council tries to talk them out of it. The roads are blocked, the fuel is gone, and the radiation hotspots are unpredictable. But they go anyway. You watch them drive away, their trunk overflowing with suitcases. You know you will likely never see them again. It feels like a funeral. Every person who leaves makes the town weaker, but you can't force people to stay in a dying world. You just watch the taillights fade. When the grid goes dark, the cloud goes with it. All those YouTube tutorials and survival blogs you bookmarked? Gone in a millisecond. You need a command center that works offline. I built the Protocol Survival app to be that system. It is designed to work without a signal, keeping your inventory, medical guides, and tactical checklists right in your pocket. Secure your inventory and access your free training modules now while you still have a signal. Go to protocolsurvival.com and get the offline tools that will keep your family fed and safe when the world stops making sense. Be the person with the plan, not the person with the questions. Day 15. The mandatory shelter-in-place order from the ham radio nets is finally lifted. The air is still hazy, but the Geiger counters in the council's possession show levels have dropped to manageable risks. You step outside for the first time without a mask for more than 5 minutes. The air tastes like metallic ash and old wood smoke. The trees are starting to turn brown, out of season. It looks like a world that has been bleached. You aren't just a resident now. You are an explorer in a landscape that used to be your backyard. You lead a scouting party to the interstate overpass. From up there, you can see the true scale of the disaster. The highway is a graveyard of abandoned cars, stretched out as far as the eye can see. Some were burned out. Others just left when they died. There is no movement, no birds, no insects. Just the wind whistling through the open doors of SUVs. It is a monument to a civilization that lived on the move, now frozen in place. You realize that the town is all you have. There is no away to go to. On day 18, you meet the others. Not raiders, but a scouting party from the town 20 miles east. You meet them at the county line, with rifles low but ready. They are looking for a doctor. They have an outbreak of something. They think it's the flu, but it's killing people. This is the new diplomacy. You trade information and a small amount of salt for news of the coast. You don't let them pass the checkpoint. You can't risk the infection, and you can't risk them seeing how little food you really have. Diplomacy is now a mask for survival. By day 21, the low-hanging fruit is gone. Every pantry and every abandoned house has been emptied. The community is now forced to look at long-term solutions. You start the victory gardens in the middle of the football field. People are tearing up the turf with hand shovels. It looks pathetic. A few rows of seeds in a world of concrete. But it's a statement. We are staying. We are planting. We are refusing to starve. You realize that a calorie from a garden is worth 10 from a can because it represents a future. You protect those sprouts like they are gold. The last of the town's siphoned gasoline is dedicated to the community tractor and the medical generator. Private vehicles are now just lawn ornaments. You see people modifying bicycles with trailers made from shopping carts. It's primitive, but it works. This shift in logistics changes the geography of your world. 5 miles is now a long journey. The next town is a foreign country. Your world has shrunk to the distance you can walk while carrying 50 pounds. You start looking at your boots with a new kind of reverence. They are your only engine now. A formal barter market establishes itself in the town square. Money is literally trash. You see a woman trade a diamond wedding ring for a gallon of kerosene and 2 cans of tuna. The person with the tuna got the better end of the deal. Items with utility are the new gold. Multi-tools, lighters, heavy-duty trash bags and cordage. You trade some of your spare batteries for a manual grain mill. It's a heavy iron beast, but it means you can turn the dry corn from the silos into meal. You are learning that wealth is what you can use, not what you can save. Not everyone likes the council's rules. A group of former contractors and hunters thinks the rations should be distributed based on strength rather than need. They want to take what's left and head for the hills. This is the classic fracture. You have to decide where you stand. Do you support the fragile democracy of the gym, or the might makes right of the hunters? You choose the council, not because they are perfect, but because once you start letting the strong eat the weak, you aren't a community anymore. You are just a pack of wolves. Day 25 brings a black rain. It's not the fallout, just a massive thunderstorm fueled by the heat of the fires and the soot in the atmosphere. It's oily and dark. It washes the grey ash off the houses, but leaves a black streak on everything. It floods the low-lying shelters. You spend the night bailing out the medical clinic by candlelight. The rain feels like a second attack. It reminds you that nature doesn't care about your tragedy. It just keeps moving. You shiver in your damp clothes and pray for the sun. By day 28, the first official news reaches you. A courier from a military outpost 200 miles away arrives on a motorcycle. He brings a packet of flyers. The government is being reorganized in the interior. There are safe zones. But they aren't coming for you. Not yet. You have to hold your position for an indeterminate period. The news is both a relief and a hammer blow. There is a world out there, but it is too broken to help you. You are on your own, but you are part of something. You read the flyer to the crowd. It is the first time you've seen them smile in a month. Day 30 arrives. You look at your family. They are thinner, paler, and their eyes have a hardness that shouldn't be there. But they are alive. You have navigated the first month of the end of the world. The town is still standing. The gardens are sprouting. The watch is still being kept. You realize that survival isn't a destination. It's a habit. You have built a new life out of the wreckage of the old one. You step out onto your porch and watch the sun rise through the haze. It's a new world, and you are in it. Day 31 to 60 is the transition to the long haul. The emergency mindset fades into a grim reality of labour. The town has been divided into districts. Everyone has a role. If you don't contribute, you are ostracised. The social contract has become a literal survival pact. You find yourself spending 6 hours a day tending to the community's wood-burning kilns. We need charcoal for water filtration and fuel. It's dirty, exhausting work. You realize that prepping was just the entrance exam. This is the actual course. The food runs low by day 45. The starvation season begins. This is where the guilt becomes unbearable. You see children whose ribs are starting to show. You have a secret stash of protein bars you've kept hidden for your own kids. Do you share? If you do, your kids get weaker. If you don't, you watch your neighbor's child stop playing in the street because she doesn't have the energy. You choose your family. You feed them in the dark, in the basement, so no one hears the crinkle of the wrapper. This is the true price of survival. It costs you your innocence. By day 60, the barter system has evolved. Cigarettes, alcohol, and ammunition are the primary units of trade. But knowledge is the high-value item. A man who knows how to fix a manual pump or sharpen a saw is treated like a king. You trade your tactical knowledge, how to set up trip flares and patrol routes, for a winter coat for your wife. You realize that your value to the community is the only thing that keeps you safe. In the long haul, you aren't a person. You are a set of skills. Internal friction peaks. A small group decides the council is too restrictive and tries to seize the medical supply cache. There is a standoff in the town square. No shots are fired, but the air is electric with the threat of it. This is the tribal shift. People are retreating into smaller, more trusted groups. The town is becoming a collection of fortified homes that only cooperate when they have to. You reinforce your doors. You sleep in shifts. The grid-down world is a lonely place, even when you are surrounded by people. By day 75, the nuclear autumn has turned into a brutal, soot-covered winter. The temperature drops 20 degrees below normal. Without heating oil or electricity, the town becomes a collection of chimneys. People are burning furniture, fences, and books just to stay alive. You see the smoke rising from every house, a signal of desperation. The silence is back, muffled by the black snow. You spend your days huddled around a small wood stove in one room. The world has ended, and it is very, very cold. Day 90. You are looking at the last of your preps. 1 bag of rice, 3 cans of Spam. You've made it 3 months. You look at your daughter. She's reading a book by the light of a tallow candle. She's alive. That was the mission. You realize that all the tactical gear and the high-end rifles didn't matter as much as the 300 gallons of water you stored in the first hour. You didn't survive because you were the strongest. You survived because you were the most prepared to be bored and miserable. People ask me if they should even bother. They say they'd rather go out in the flash than live in a world of black snow and waste buckets. I tell them that's a coward's exit. You don't survive for yourself. You survive so the light of humanity doesn't go out. You survive so there is someone left to tell the stories of what we were. The grid isn't what keeps the lights on. It's what keeps the monsters out. And when the grid fails, you have to be the one who stands between the monsters and the people you love. That is the only curriculum that matters.